All right, I'm going to call the city council meeting to order. So just, can you hear me okay? All right, I'm calling the special call meeting to order, February 22nd, 22. The purpose for this meeting is to discuss emergency sewer repair over in Oak Forest and also an AC unit for the city attorney's office. Since it's a special meeting, we're going to go ahead and as soon as Ms. Ramsey gets in here, we'll call the roll. And we'll dispense with the normal pledge and prayer. Mr. Franklin, please let us be able to hold a meeting. All right, so Mr. Patterson, what we're waiting on is another proposal to be printed out on the sewer issue. But while we're waiting on that, we'll go ahead and take the second item first on the AC unit for the city attorney's office. Okay, Ms. Crockett, what's your motion?
Is the motion to suspend the rules, place on third?
Place on the third and final reading for this AC unit for the city of
Ms. Crockett makes the motion that we put approval of the air conditioning unit for the city attorney's office not to exceed $6,000 on third and final reading. Mr. Franklin seconded the motion. Ms. Ramsey in here. But we're going to wait on you to take roll.
Ford. Davis. Etherly.
Yes.
Valley. St. Columbia.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes. Yes.
Ford. One absent.
You ain't never call my name, it's Ford, that's why.
Crockett.
So, and we'll call roll just a second. Oh, roll or-
I was calling the roll. You should call the roll.
All right. Okay, so the roll call has been made. So I'm going to go back to Ms. Crockett's motion to put the question of the approval of the AC unit for the city attorney's office not to exceed $6,000 on third and final reading. Ms. Crockett made the motion to put it on third and final reading. Mr. Franklin seconded the motion. Now call it up.
Sorry. Ford.
Yes.
Etherly.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes.
Davis. 5 yes.
And then, hold on. Mr. Franklin.
How long will it take you?
How long will it take us to pay?
You'll call them out of the thing, check the check.
Well, we have a proposal in front of you from Mr. Dell here. He will cost of repair as it goes. It's 551485. Mr. Valley will explain. Anyway, so now the question before the table is final approval. Is there a motion for final approval?
So for what? This ordinance, we talking this ordinance, right?
Ms. Crockett moves final. Ms. Crockett moves final adoption of the ordinance to approve the waiver of bidding for the air conditioning unit for the city attorney's office not to exceed $6,000. Mr. Franklin seconded the motion. Any questions or discussion about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia.
Yeah.
Franklin.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yeah.
Ford.
Yeah.
Etherly.
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent.
I didn't read the final order number 3/2022. It's ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with Arkansas Code of Section 145803, authorizing the mayor into the contract to purchase certain property for the city of Helena-West, Arkansas, and other related purposes.
So there's an emergency clause, right?
Yes, as a emergency clause.
Okay, so the next question on the table is the emergency clause for ordinance number 3. Mr. Franklin moves adoption of the emergency clause for ordinance number 3. Is there a second? Mr. St. Columbia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes.
5 yes.
The second ordinance I just handed out is related to the sewer proposal, Mr. Mayor. That's what I'm handing out now.
Okay, Mr. Jeff, Ms. Patterson, our water manager, you want to come forward and we'll briefly discuss this issue. So
Thank you.
over an oak forest, between Oak Forest and over by where our west tank is on Stringtown Road, there is a sewer break, a sewer main that was discovered, and it's required by state law and the health department for us to repair that. So we've been trying to get estimates for your consideration. Mr. Patterson, you want to add to that?
The sewer has been there for, I'm gonna say, 6 months. And, it's deep in the woods. It's running in a ditch. When we found it, we finally found it. It's a 12-inch sewer main. It has broken, it's caved in from tree roots. The ditch itself has dropped because of the weight of the pipe, and it caused it to collapse. When we found it, it's on Dr. Frederick's property on his land, but it's woods. We talked to him, and he told us to do whatever we need to do to get it fixed. If we have to go in through his woods, we can. He gave us permission. I talked to Brad Roberts, a contractor that specializes in this type of work. He came down, he looked at it, and he got back with me on material, what it would take to fix it, how long it would take. But unfortunately, he developed COVID for about 6 weeks. When he got over that, he got back with me. He got up an estimate and he presented it to the mayor. The price, I don't know, because he didn't give me one.
And so that's Friday.
Friday.
You presented us the price, and we also got another price. It's the phone from Smart Services in Marion, Arkansas. And as Mr. Patterson pointed out, which we asked for that, get people to fix it, but we can fix it ourselves, have our guys look at it. Probably 6 weeks. Then kind of look at it. This is kind of supplies, but anyway, move as expeditiously. Move as expeditiously as we could. I think you could say, Mr. Patterson. Our own crew couldn't fix it. We do it. We do have health department and other places that require us questions.
Yeah, I have a whole list of questions. Ms. Crockett, ladies first, I'm sorry. Ms. Crockett, ladies first.
My first question is, I see where y'all want us to weigh competitive bids. What funds are gonna be used to pay for this?
I'm sorry.
What funds, what pot is these funds supposed to be coming out of?
I haven't had the water issue.
So they won't come out of the, what the money is?
Rescue.
Rescue Act money? That's my question.
Well, I mean, ultimately it might could, but this is emergency, and that might require a lot longer discussions. If you want to pay it out the existing water.
Now, I'm asking you when you presented this, what funds were you planning on paying this out of?
Well, I'm presenting now, right now, it has to come out of water and sewer department. Funds can be transferred to that department to help pay.
I thought they just stood before, y'all got money to pay this?
Yeah. Is this on the other day? Boy. It's games being played.
It's supposed to.
Oh, I said we supposed to.
I'm through.
I'm not sure I heard your question.
My question was, does the water department have the funds to pay for this repair?
Well, the answer is yes. The question is, what do we have to forego to entire business? That's the meeting that Jeff, Sarita, and I, some other people are going to have to see what to do about the funds across the city department. But regardless of what has to be prioritized, this has to be at the top because it's federally and state regulated because of public health.
Okay, maybe that led into my next question. If it's been there for 6 months, what led y'all to look for this leak? If it's down in the valley?
A customer on Oak Forest had a sewer problem.
Mhm.
And we went down and we couldn't find it. I called Arkansas Rural Water. They brought a camera down to go inside the sewer line. And that's when we found the breakage.
And it's been 6 months that y'all, because the man became ill, we could have been to bid this out and everything. This, and then, it made me seem like y'all just know about this break last day, Thursday, when you sent the notice out. Next.
I'm ready. Listen, I'm glad if it was such an emergency, please don't interrupt me. I'm so glad that it was an emergency that you felt like last Tuesday when you called, told us we was gonna meet about something. Here we are talking about this. Watch this. I'm not sure that I want to entertain this right now. It can wait. You know the reason why it can wait? Because if Mr. Pastor just said that, you just found out about it, get some bids in here. I don't know this company in Marion, don't care to know. Get some folks in here to bid it out, do it the right way. If it was 6 months ago, it ain't gonna hurt to wait till the next council meeting. I'm not in favor of every time you get something, you run it in here, shove it down our throat, this is what we gonna do. It ain't happening. You got 4 other people that can vote. I'm not voting for this because if it was an emergency, you had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and here we are today. You said it was an emergency. So just like these bills that I'm gonna go through that you spent for that in that storm, see, we don't know what this is gonna come up to because you know how you do it. Just like you bought that excavator that the body told you not to buy, you bought an excavator down at the water department right now that you had insurance put on. You don't respect us. You don't respect us at all. The West Helena Water Department is closed down right now because you decided that you want to embarrass the council. It ain't happening. You do what you want to do. You got an excavator that we told you not to buy, came in, I took a picture of it. You bought it. This body said, no, you don't have any respect for us. But here you come running this mess up here talking about somebody smelling they got a problem. I got a leak by my house, it's popping up my concrete. I have not called you out, but it's like your priorities are wrong. You want to try to embarrass us, but you're embarrassing yourself because you should have had some decency. We told you not to order that excavator. It's down there. You don't have any respect for us. Mr. Pastor, is there an excavator not down at the plant?
Yes,
When did it get there?
Friday morning.
Didn't this body vote not to do that?
Yes, sir.
You did it. You have no respect for us.
Point of order.
Point of order, I'm
No, you're asking, Mr. Patrick, no,
He the water man.
no, sir, listen.
You
You do this every time.
You know, you
did vote.
We
You voted.
we
Yes, you
rescinded
did.
that vote.
You voted.
No, we did not. That's something that you did.
Mr.
Stop
Franklin,
lying
it's
to
a
people.
matter of
Stop
record.
lying to people like we did.
I'm
that.
not going
We
lying.
rescinded that. Mr. City Attorney, did we not didn't we rescind that?
By the time you
No, we
rescinded it,
didn't. You just, that thing came in. You didn't send them folks a letter.
Mr.
Mr. Smith,
Franklin.
stop doing us like that. You had Ms. Ram to put insurance
Because
on.
you can yell over everybody, doesn't mean you're telling the truth.
Because
Okay.
it is the truth. Ms.
No, it's
Ram,
not.
it has the insurance been put on the excavator?
Mhm.
Yes, so who lying? You or
I'm
me?
proud that we have.
We don't need that. The water department is in crisis.
We
right
don't
now
need to fix
because
our
of you.
ditches.
We ain't nobody worried about no ditches right now. We want these sewers and stuff fixed. You spending money on stuff to make you look good because of the election year, and you're still gonna lose.
Mr. Franklin, if you want to spend the money that went to the, no, you
I
won't
don't
let
want
me
to spend
talk.
it on that. I want to take care of these customers.
Mr. Franklin,
Take care of
the
the
reason
customers.
you don't let me or anybody else talk is because you don't want
you
the
talk
truth.
too long.
You don't want-
said the same.
What are you doing?
You know what I'm doing? I'm sure what
You don't want anybody to hear the
You
truth.
taking the citizens' money, doing what you want to do with it. You taking that just like your folks did. You taking this money, spending it. how
You
you want.
voted for that.
And I rescinded my
And it
vote
was
because it's not right.
Mr. Franklin,
You
can yell over everybody all you want.
What can you do to me? You are
Yell-
spending these folks' money. You hiring folks illegally. You're doing everything backwards.
Mr. Franklin,
Mr. Smith, tell the folks
There
the
is
truth.
a-
That how you spend so much money. That's
Mr.
why these folks
Franklin.
broke. Tell the truth that Miss Wesley does not know how much money y'all spent during this storm, during this emergency that you declared when you got rid of Mr. Benzine Collier. That's why the water department is broke. Tell the folks the truth. You know you spent all this money. That's why they're here asking us to give them more money. That's why they're here. Tell the truth. I'm passionate that you're messing up. These folks got to come here back to this body and beg. It makes us like we don't know what we're doing because all you doing is getting on Facebook with your little cronies saying, oh, we don't have this. The council didn't do this. Only one person at the table on the city council look good. You know what it is? That's Mr. St. Columbia. He looks good. He looks good to your constituents. You can talk now.
Mr. Franklin, you can convince everybody that you're speaking truth to power, but when you speak untruth,
It's in black and white.
when you speak
It's in black
untruth,
and white right here. How much
when
money
you
spend.
speak untruth to power,
It's in black and white.
you're the one who doesn't want to be challenged because you won't let anybody answer and respond to anything you say.
When you could have been had this stuff beat it out, what you want to do is
Mr.
get
Franklin.
your folks so you get your stuff together.
Mr.
But guess
Franklin.
what?
There's
Let
not
everybody-
anything that you
Yeah.
said at all
Show
that
me.
is
Then
accurate.
tell us how much money we
Nothing.
spent when we played
If that, the purpose of this
Tell us
meeting
how
is
much-
to resolve
Right,
a
that's it.
sewer
Tell us
emergency.
how much money you spent in that when you declared an emergency. That's why I'm loud, because we can't keep giving a blank check to you and you giving
When-
it's like that $30,000 server. That's too much money. for
Mr.
a
Franklin,
server.
that
We
was
trying to
out
a
of-
whole small town.
That was paid out of federal money that y'all
But it's
approved.
like you.
This
hate to be
money,
challenged.
if you want to
You
approve,
hate to be challenged.
no, you don't like to be challenged.
'Cause
That's
I
why
got
you
the
won't
truth.
stop talking.
This show that you spent the money.
If you're not afraid of being challenged, then listen and stop
Come on.
talking over everybody.
Because that's how you do us.
No.
It hurts.
I'll
me.
listen to everything you
You don't
said.
listen to nothing
But
because
when
you
it's
took-
time
took heed to this
for
right
somebody
now.
else to talk, just keep
How
talking.
much money?
Just like you are
How
now.
much money did we spend doing this emergency? I'm not the members of this body. I apologize to y'all, but I'm not in favor of spending a dime until we find out how much money we spent in this emergency. This right here been going on for 6 months. Understand what I'm saying? I need to know. We as the city council need to know how much money we spent during the emergency that the mayor declared. So that can let us know where this money went. We have no receipts. We have an accurate amount. How much have the water department spent? Mr. Patterson, Ms. Wesley came here a week today begging us to cash in CDs, and neither one of them can tell us how much money we spent in a storm to put us, in an emergency to put us in this damage. That's what I'm saying. So public understand this. I'm not yelling. I'm passionate because I want this body to have some knowledge of how much money that the mayor spent during this disaster. He spent money on a side-by-side and a four-wheeler, and that was not included. We need to know how much money, how much did you spend in this declared emergency? The true spent. I'm not in favor of this right here. I know it may hurt some people, but I'm not in favor until we get a current amount of money that you spent, sir. Because if we pay this, what's going to do? Go buy another four-wheeler and side-by-side and be at the police department again? Tell us how much money. And if you think I'm yelling over you, that's how you do us when we talk. So I'm playing your game. And I want these citizens to understand this, that you're spending money without authorization. Whatever you want to buy, you go buy. And you want to make yourself look good, but you're not, because that's why the water department is having trouble paying its bills because you dipping into their money.
Ms. Ford.
Hey, I just want Mr. Jack to reiterate again, as manager, when were you notified of the sewer issue? When?
Ms. Ford, I can't really pinpoint a day or date.
Approximate?
The customer called the office, well, she called me personally and told me that she had a sewer backup. And I sent the maintenance crew down to look at it. We discovered that the sewer line runs in the ditch. And she had her son, who works for Laddell, to put a snake in her line. And it didn't go all the way to our main. So we went to a manhole and we found that it was hot. So we got the sewer machine down and put it in there. It went in so far and then it stopped. So we knew we had a breakage somewhere in the line. That's when I informed the customer that, I would get Arkansas Rural Water to come down because they have a camera that will go in sewer mains. They came down about 4 or 5 days later and ran into the sewer main, and we found the stopper. We found the breakage in the line.
That's when you located it. When you located, I just want an approximate date. Was it September of last year? Was it around?
The first time, it was manageable to break it with the sewer machine, and her line went down. But I would say 3, maybe 4 weeks later, she got stopped up again.
Did she notify you September of last year, October, November, December? Because I keep hearing 6 months. So I'm just saying.
Every time she stopped up, she notified me. Every time.
Okay, I guess maybe I'm not asking this question correctly. First time she notified you.
It was in September.
Okay, September. And you located the root of the problem when?
We located the root of the problem the second time we went out. In October.
That's what she asked for them.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
like that.
Thank you for the assistance. And we're just now looking at doing something in February of 2022.
Well, he came down and it was right after New Year. He came down and looked at it.
This was Arkansas Rural.
No, ma'am.
This
No,
was
ma'am. This was Brad Roberts.
Brad who?
Roberts.
Any other questions, Ms. Ford?
No.
This-
Jeff, when was this declared an emergency?
It was declared an emergency when the customer called the health department.
And when was that?
I was notified that she called the health department in September.
It was declared an emergency in September.
Yes, sir.
But you didn't know where to fix the emergency, is that correct?
We didn't know where the breakage
You didn't know
was.
where the breakage, you knew it was an emergency, but you
Yes.
didn't know where. So you called in Arkansas Rural to come in
What they kept,
to find the
Yeah.
breakage.
Yes, sir.
And when did you find the breakage?
we found a breakage in October.
In October.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now when did you determine that this was an emergency and you had to get it fixed?
Well, like I said, in September,
In September?
when a customer can smell sewage
Okay, why did,
and sewage is physically running on the ground, that's an emergency.
question is, why did you not get it fixed in September?
Well, we didn't get it fixed in September because we never found it until Arkansas Rural Water came down
When
And
was
found
that? When was that?
in September. I mean, in October, excuse
Oh,
me.
in October.
Yes, sir.
Well, why didn't you get it fixed in October?
Well, the reason that we didn't get it fixed in October is because the customer was running. Now, as long as
The
the customer,
customers were running.
long as the customer line, her line is free, when she flush or wash or it ain't backing up, we feel that the line is running through.
So that was a leak that you knew about, but it wasn't an emergency at that time.
No, sir.
It is an emergency now, is that what you're saying?
Now it's running on top of the,
Oh,
on top of the ground.
now it's an emergency.
It was a leak that was found further down the
Oh,
line.
you found another leak.
The line had collapsed.
Oh, I see.
And when
So it
it
got
collapsed,
worse.
it fills with dirt, sediment and all this, and it stops
So
everything.
now, because it is affecting the health and welfare of this community, you feel you got to get it fixed now. Is that what you're saying?
Well, to tell you the truth, Mr. Columbia,
Yes, sir.
it should have been fixed.
Sir,
It should have been fixed.
it should have been fixed.
Yes.
Well, that's my question is why wasn't it fixed?
Well, like I said, it might be my fault, but as long as the customer's line is free to run into our main and we don't have no other calls, we leave it alone. Yes, sir.
No, Mr. Franklin, not right now. Are you through?
No, I want to know why now it's an emergency because the pipe collapsed.
Well, the pipe had been a collapse.
It has been collapsed for how long?
She had called the health department 2 other times. I'm getting this fixed, but due to weather, the ice we had,
Okay, ice,
the
weather,
snow we
put
had,
down in there.
we
to do
couldn't
it.
get to.
But that's the point I'm trying to make is if it's an emergency now, when was it declared an emergency? When it collapsed.
Well,
Well,
Mr. St. Columbia, do you mind if I try to help answer this or clarify it a little bit?
Okay.
There's and Ms. Passion, correct me, is there anything we could have done to address this any quicker than what we have already done?
no quicker than what we doing now.
Thank you. And the point, and let me clarify. Let me clarify. A customer might call, we have to inspect, we have to verify what the customer says is true, is accurate. We have to have people who know how to do that, come in there and do it. It's not just about whether it backs up into somebody's lines. It's also, the violation has really not so much that, is the fact that it is coming out on the ground and can then therefore get into
The dirt.
runoff, streams, and so forth, and go downstream as untreated sewage. That is the violation of federal and state rules, of public safety and public health rules that occurred. We didn't actually, it was reported, but we couldn't verify that was the case until later. And then you have to find somebody who can fix it, who can repair it. And all that time you report to the state your progress on trying to get it repaired. And then the person who's the expert on it, who came in to look at it to verify what the repairs are and should be, got COVID for 6 weeks, and that delayed us quite a bit. But we had no prices to bring to the council until Friday. So this is the first opportunity since late Friday afternoon. And as a matter of fact, we just got one of them today. Could we bring it before the council? But it cannot wait until next Tuesday because now it is a public health emergency. Now we do have a means to address it and repair it. And now it is incumbent upon the city to do so. Mr. Patterson, explain to me anything I said there that wasn't, or them or anybody else that was off there a little bit.
Okay.
Trying to answer some of the questions that are basically what they're trying to find out is why is it taking so long to fix it? And the answer is it took a while first to determine that it was in fact a violation. And second, to get somebody who could tell us how to fix it, what it would cost. And we didn't get any estimates until this past Friday. And tell us if I'm wrong, maybe is there anything we could have done differently that would have made it any faster, considering weather conditions and the COVID issue and all the rest?
As far as doing anything quicker, no, we couldn't. I mean, when the rain came, the ground is soft, the machines are very heavy. We don't want to work, we don't want to run up nobody's yard or nothing like that. We had, like I said, we talked to Dr. Frederick because that land is his. Even though it's woods, it's part of his property. We talked to him. We got permission from him to do what we needed to do to go back there and fix that leak.
So now you're saying that we can go ahead and get it fixed. And because of
He
because of
still has
the,
the.
He didn't have the floor.
excuse me, Mr.
I asked him if I could try to clarify to answer his questions, and he can.
Yeah, he
follow
wanted to
up,
interrupt
just like
my,
everybody else here. I'll try to.
he wanted to interrupt my questioning, and I'll be through in just a minute. But now you determined that we do know what the problem is, the grounds where we have to go ahead and get it done now. The problem is to go ahead as it is an emergency because of the health and welfare of the citizens of this community. We need to get it fixed. And we got the money to do it with. Is that correct? You said we do? Let's get it done. And I'm in favor for, let's quit pointing the finger at everybody, anybody. Let's get it done for the city and for the community and the people that live in that area and for the welfare of the community. I'll support the getting it fixed.
Well, right now, the contractor is ready to fix.
Okay, and
but
can get it fixed.
Due to the weather that we finna get, he can't fix.
So we just should
So, Mr. Franklin, are you through, Mrs. St. Columbia?
Yes, sir, I finished.
All right, it's
I'm in favor for getting it fixed.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin and then Mr. Crockett.
let Ms. Crockett go.
She was.
But let Ms.
asked
Crockett,
before you
but
did.
that's fine, but behind,
But
but you can let the lady go. The ladies are first. Ms. Crockett, then Ms. Ford, and I'll come
I
last.
just got a
Ms.
question.
Crockett.
If we've been knowing, well, not we, because I ain't been knowing about, if y'all been knowing about this since October, Mr. Patterson states that it was a state of emergency then. So because one contractor got ill and could not give you a bid or anything, we put it on the back burner to wait on one contractor. It could have been bidded out by now, and we probably could have had 10 or 12 contractors, and it could have been finished by now. So basically what you're saying is, we put this whole job on hold because we want to promise one man a contract.
Well, as you can see, you have two before you.
No,
Mr. Patterson,
But you just got this second one, right? And you said that the other man
No.
got ill, because I ain't gonna say what y'all said, because y'all gonna get sued.
Mr. Patterson, do you want to address that?
The bid that I think you got right now.
I got
is from-
two.
Well, the first one, the only one I know of is Brad Rock.
But I'm saying, this man came out in October, then he became ill
Yes.
and could not come back. So y'all didn't try to get anybody else to bid on it or put it out for bids or anything. It was
I
just,
did.
that's what I'm saying.
I
That's my question. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, I spoke with the lady and she's been complaining about this for a while.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to know is it because it seems like to me that because one man, and I'm just using an example, because Mr. St. Columbia could not perform the job at the time that it needed to be performed, we're gonna postpone it till Mr. St. Columbia is able to get up and do the job. We're not gonna ask Mr. Etherly if he's able to do it, or Ms. Davis, if they're able to do it. We're gonna hold our bids from October to February because Mr. St. Columbia is not able to do the job. Is that the problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so then why was it not bidded out to somebody else? Why was it not bidded out in October? Because all I'm hearing is that the reason we did not get any bids is because one man became ill. One contractor became ill and could not perform the job. Now, that's all. Now, if you got something different, you need to tell me.
Well, I'm trying to answer that.
Okay.
The reason it took, if you listen to Mr. Patterson's explanation, the reason it took a long time from October, just because someone calls doesn't mean you immediately bid something. You have to determine that the person that calls, you have to go out and inspect it. It's in the middle of the woods. That's what happened first. There was a chain of things that happened. Rural water got involved and so forth. It wasn't until the last 6 weeks that the health issue, the person you're talking about, became an issue. However, and I'm not sure, we do have two estimates, number one. Number two, not everybody can do this sufficiently to the specifications of federal and state regulations. So even though we could bid it out, it would take what we are required to do. Regardless of what our city council regulations are as far as bidding and spending, what we are required and mandated by law to do is to fix it as soon as we can fix it. It wasn't until Friday that we knew what it would cost to fix it.
Because you
And
waited
as
till
soon-
Friday to
no,
get a
ma'am.
quote.
No, ma'am. It's the first time I got any
You said
estimates.
that the man came out in October and he did not come back and give you a quote because he got ill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
That's-
Ms. Crockett,
I
that's
ain't trying
not
to get
what,
fired.
that's not what he
It's
said.
fine.
Mr. Patterson, he got ill the last 6 weeks. That's not October. That
Right,
would, right?
right.
In October, it had nothing to do with somebody
put them
getting
words in
ill.
his mouth. Put them words in his mouth.
No, Mr. Patterson spoke earlier. I'm just.
And he
repeating what
said that the man, he told Mr. St. Columbia that it was declared a
So,
disaster.
Mr.
in
Patterson,
October.
is it your testimony that the reason it's taken so long is because someone got ill in October? Is that what you're trying to say? Because that's what Ms. Crockett's saying. Mr. Franklin, nobody's asking you. Mr. Patterson. What they want to know is why is it taking so long?
It's taking so long and it might be my fault, but when I talked to Brad Roberts and he came down and looked at it and determined what it was, he didn't give me a quote
When
right
was
then
that?
and there.
When was that?
That was in,
Brad came in January, that's what he said
No.
earlier.
First in October.
he
Who
came,
came in October then?
he came down and looked at,
In October?
yes, ma'am.
And then he became ill.
He
And then he
became,
came back in January
yeah.
and gave you a quote.
Now, we correspond with each other
Okay.
since
He
then.
didn't become ill in
Okay, come on,
October.
let him talk, Mayor, let him talk. Because see, you put words in
No,
his
you're
mouth.
trying to twist people's words.
No, that's what you're trying to do. Come on, Mr. Patterson.
It's
Come on,
very,
Mr.
I'm gonna just put it very simply.
Come on, Mr.
We got,
Okay.
first price we
Mr.
got
Patterson
this
talk.
Friday. This is the first opportunity to
6
meet.
weeks.
If
6
we
weeks.
don't do it, we
Going
could be
back.
spending up to $10,000 a day in fines.
He became ill.
Mhm.
He got well. He called me and told me that he's well, he's over it, and that he was getting the bid together to bring to us.
And how long ago that's been?
That was last Friday. Tuesday.
Last Tuesday.
That was last Tuesday. He came Friday with the estimate.
Okay.
Right. Like before president.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question.
I just want to know what happened when he came in October and said that this ditch is messed up, and the clap this line. Y'all need to do something about it. What happened between October and January? I'm lost. Them November and December, something happened to them months. Did they erase off the map or something? What happened between October and January? Why would, if we already knew this, if y'all already knew that this was a state of emergency? What happened? What were we doing in these 2 months? Because that's the same situation we have about the money that you said we declared, we said that you could spend for the water company in May, but you didn't want to do nothing till November when something else came up. So I'm just trying to see, why are these months lapsing between the time that something that, like it was an emergency? What happened in November and December? Don't look like that. I was just asking a question.
I know you're desperately trying to make everything my fault, but
You
he's
can say
already,
what you
he's
want to, man.
already,
I'm asking a question. If I want to know, you can't tell me what happened in November and December.
we
Just
have
like you
moved.
sit before this body and
Miss-
told me
Miss
when I asked you
Franklin.
for something before,
Ms. Crockett.
that you didn't even try to do it. So maybe you didn't try to
Ms.
get this
Crockett,
fixed.
I know
I
you
just
want
need
it
you
to
to
be
say
my
that
fault.
again.
It's not my fault, okay? It's not anybody's,
Whose fault is it?
it's not anybody's fault. The line broke because it hasn't been maintained in years. It
That-
broke.
Ma'am, you're
Mr.
trying
Patterson,
to paint a
Mr.
picture for these
Patterson.
people.
Would you explain to them one more time why it took so long from September or October to January now to do something about it? Although there were things being done during that period, would you please explain to them again? Because they keep asking it over and over.
Because we ain't got no answer.
Ms. Crockett, if you know the answer, why are you
I
asking
said
the
we ain't
question?
got no answer. Now don't holler at me.
No,
I didn't holler
Ms.
at you, don't
Crockett.
you holler at me.
You're answering your own question.
No, because we ain't got no answer. That's what I want to answer. That's
We're
all.
giving you plenty of answers, and I'm
No,
gonna give
you
you,
give
we're
me
gonna
plenty
give you
now.
another chance to get
Okay.
that answer right now.
Okay, I'm listening.
I'll take the blame for
No,
that.
don't you take no blame, but yes, you do, because Buddy.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead. Joe St. Columbia, he talking to me now, I'm on the floor.
I'll take the blame for that. November, December, it was ignored.
Thank you, that's all I need. Somebody-
it doesn't matter whose fault it is. The
Joe,
citizens of-
you can quit saying that happy
Ms.
birthday.
Crockett.
Mr. Mayor, it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. You know, the thing about it is, we have a problem here. The city needs to get it fixed. We've got the money to do it with. His fault, their fault, our fault. The fault doesn't matter. It's that we have the problem. We know it exists. It's existed since October. It's gotten worse now. Couldn't fix it because a man got sick. We couldn't fix it because of various. Got the money and we can get it done. The man's ready to do it. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so I
Wait
make
a
a
minute, wait a
motion that ordinance number,
Make
what's
your own
it?
motion.
Ordinance number 4 be read and put on third and final reading, that we waive the funds necessary to move forward and get the job done. I make the motion.
Mr. St. Columbia makes a motion that we put ordinance number 4 on third and final reading, please. There's a motion. Ordinance number 4 on third and final reading. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a
Now, can
second.
I have a question? I just want Mr. St. Columbia can start talking something. The motion, you tell him you ain't called for no motion now. There was some more questions being, see, you ain't no attention to me right now, so you don't know what I'm saying. You having a whole sidebar conversation, one you try to tell other people not to have. See, look at that, look at that. You choose what you want to recognize.
Ms. Crockett, Ms. Crockett,
I don't know, you got to ask your boss.
I'm trying to confer with our city attorney about the legality of not resolving this public health crisis in the sewer line. And listen to him.
But how come you can't tell us that? You just start having.
I think Ms. Crockett, Ms. Crockett, Ms. Crockett,
Don't call my name
there's
no more.
absolutely, and I'm gonna take Mr. Passon off the hook here. It wasn't his fault either. It takes time to schedule people to do things, especially in this pandemic world that we're in and with weather. Okay, it's really not anybody's fault, even though it's, some of you, or at least, are desperately trying to make it appear to be my fault. Poor
You must
Mr.
have
Jeff
said yes,
is
because anybody trying to
being
make it look like your
pressured.
fault.
I'm, here, Mr. Parrish, make it sound like it's not anybody's fault. It just is what it is. Now, the question is, what are, since Friday, we do have two quotes on what it would take to fix it. And we are under state and federal public safety and public health requirements. So my question to Mr. Valley, what is his opinion? So I'll just let him say what it is publicly, I guess. Now, I'm asking Mr. Valley, he's recognized for his opinion.
That man crying.
And then after he's completed, we'll recognize you.
You ain't took his opinion for nothing else. When they can't take money to take his opinion, but now you want his opinion. You call away the little rock to get an opinion about that man. He's got a law degree, but now you want his opinion because you think it's no salsa. But when that premium pay came up the grab, you had a whole meeting with another lawyer and you forgot about the city attorney, Andre Ballard, and city attorney went way to Little Rock and got somebody and had them to come here and do that. And now the city attorney is so precious today that he can answer a question. Go ahead, old city attorney, you do your thing. But you weren't at the appointment. Remember that day.
Let Mr. Valley speak.
Black history, man, you
Mr. Franklin, you
Black
don't-
history, you know.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, this is two things. As I see this entire thing, this has been.
Hold on, Mr. If I could please get your attention.
Thank you.
Please take any conversations outside so Mr. Valley can be heard.
Black History Month.
What I see in this whole situation is this.
It's Black History Month.
Ms. Crockett.
If Mr. Patterson, the mayor
Please,
knew
Mr.
back
Franklin.
in October, they should have started the bidding process back in October and bid the whole thing. Now, what we have here, two quotes, these are not, they're quotes. Bids are published in the newspaper and go through the process to invite other people. And that should have happened back in October when the problem was first learned and went through the process. The other issue with it is it's two sides. The mayor cannot spend any money that's not appropriated, and he cannot declare an emergency, so he can't spend this money on his own without the city council approval. The one thing that I could say in all of these situations is the city council has to be cognizant of the public health issue. You are a regulated water utility, and if there's sewage running, there are potential issues with ADEQ. I don't know the extent of it. I haven't seen any report. The only thing I have are these two documents here and what Mr. Patterson was just informed, excuse me. I don't know any facts about this. I don't know. Mr. Patterson said there may be sewage on top of the ground at this point. That is an issue the council needs to take due diligence and make sure that they try to get resolved on that issue through the issue of appropriation. How soon you're going to appropriate, I don't know the extent of what the risk is at this point, because really I didn't get a clear understanding of what Mr. Patterson was saying the precise issue is. I understand he said that they started it. They stopped when the person's sewage started running properly. And then for months it did nothing. And then it came back once this person had sewage issue again. I don't know to what level it would take for that person to have sewage. I don't know how much sewage there is, where it's running, where it's on above ground, or what it is. But this is an issue that all of the parties in this table need to get resolved and get it done as possible. I don't know if there's a stopgap fix that will stop the sewage from running that's cheaper while you do longer bidding. Those are things you ought to be discussing back and forth. I think you all have well defined that one is the issue. Two, that they first learned of it middle of last year, that it got more intense in October, and then last week it got worse. There were three different markers that Mr. Patterson named throughout his statement. And at this point, I couldn't discern, Mr. Patterson, whether you were saying that sewage is running, raw sewage is running on the ground, or what it was through all of this discourse that you all were saying. But the thing about it is, at this point, what I want to remind the council of is that it is a regulated water utility, and sewage should not be running on the ground. It's something you want to take due diligence look at. I want to remind the mayor, you can't spend anything until they're appropriated. You don't have authority outside the governor to declare an emergency to spend the money. So what the citizens need you all to do is come to a point where you all resolve this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. And the only thing I would add to that is in October, it wasn't clear that we were in violation, and it wasn't clear that we couldn't fix it ourselves. So there are, as you pointed out very well, there are different parts of this over the last few months. It wasn't until Friday that we had an estimate of what it might cost to fix it. And it wasn't that long ago that we found out we couldn't fix it ourselves. So even though we were first called about it in September, October, there's a long process that goes through this. As far as an emergency goes, the only emergency, just to be clear and not really responding to your comments, I've declared no emergency. This is a public health emergency because of the sewage that's open on the ground that gets into the drainage, that drains out through the city and then contaminates and can contaminate the public health sources of water for the public, animals, and others as well. So that's the reason the state declares it that way. That's the reason we have to respond in the way we have. I'm not aware of anything we have or haven't done that wasn't appropriate and done in a timely manner as possible. We can still bid it out. The question is, we have two estimates. The bid's probably going to be the same or more. We'll lose more time and the rupture will be worse. So having said that, I don't know what we're required to do. That's why I was asking Mr. Valley, as a city, other than to fix it as soon as possible. Mr. St. Columbia asked to be recognized, and I interrupted you, and then I can't remember which Mr. Frank or Ms. Crockett. Mr. St. Columbia. Yes.
understanding all this, and thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for your advice. This is raw sewage out on the ground, above ground, in our community, in the area. And the problem is, it doesn't matter whose fault it was or where it came from. We need to get it fixed. We know it's there. State law requires that this body approve the funds necessary to get it taken care of. And that's why I'm in favor of it. I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody. I don't really, it's not a matter of who's responsible or whose fault it was or whatever, but we need to get it fixed. And that's why I am for getting it fixed. And I, again, make a motion that we accept ordinance number 4 and move forward with this and approve the funds necessary. The funds are there. And Mr. Patterson said they have the money to do it with. The man's ready to do it. Let's get the job done. So I'll make the motion again that ordinance number 4 be read and approved, waiving the competitive bidding and move forward to getting it done.
All right, Mr. Clemmy makes a motion that we put ordinance number 4 on third and
It's
final
up to you
reading
guys.
to waive competitive bidding on the sewer,
How do you get to make a motion?
on repairing the sewer break. Is there a second?
You don't want a second?
Okay, no second.
We're wasting time.
All right, then we can discuss this for maybe, it's a lunch hour, it's a special emergency meeting. I know everybody has jobs and other things to tend to. We can take another 5 minutes to discuss this, but if we're not going to take action, then there's necessarily no reason to have the meeting at this point.
You can leave.
Mr. Franklin is right.
This is what I want to say. It ought to be fixed. But I just got a couple things for you as mayor. And you disrespect me all the time. You tell me to be quiet. I'm not recognized for a motion. Miss St. Columbia can make a motion. We have a city attorney who went to college and got a degree in law, who sits here every Tuesday, every first and third Tuesday he can be here and advise you on what to do. Only time our city attorney is important to you is when you think he can, he gonna tell us what to do, but you never once. And we got 12 months out of the year, and I'm so proud of you that on Black History Month, you can acknowledge that we got a city attorney who knows the law, and you turn to him and ask him, can we do this? But not one time have you took his advice. But when he gives you the law, you got to call down to Egypt, down behind the hill to get legal advice, and he give you the best, but that's not here there. I want this problem to be solved because it's one of your good friends that you want this done. But if it's in the woods, and then when you say it is in the woods, right? Who live in the woods? Is the house back there in the woods?
No, sir.
So it's public health though, but it's in the woods. Anybody back there hunting?
No, sir.
But it's in the woods, right?
Yes, sir.
So what public health? Who health is this bother if it's in the woods, Miss Pastor? And in the woods, say it clearly. Miss Pastor, is in the woods.
Yes, it is.
So who back there in the woods? You had to go on somebody else's property, right?
Yes.
Normally, if it's somebody else's property, it's on the customer. Ain't that what it is?
Right.
If it's behind the meter, it's on the customer, right?
No, sir.
But you
That's
said-
What they told me?
Oh, that's what they told me? It was-
that's a water line.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry, you're right. Sewer line, I'm sorry.
This is our
Right.
sewer line.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. I apologize, you're right. But guess what? It's in the woods, right?
Yes.
Now, but this, I'll get to it, because I'm a little out here. But you did say that with the weather coming up, that can't nobody get back there anyway. Ain't that what you? So why don't we just get some bids? Because the person cannot get back there, right? Due to the weather.
No.
So then why are we having this emergency meeting? Do you understand we have an emergency meeting about something somebody can't get back there and fix? Somebody right now, you clearly, the man said he could not get back there right now, right?
You can't get right.
So then what is the emergency on the lunch hour? You got me missing lunch and you can't get nobody back there. I move, Ms. Crockett, you got a question?
Yeah, I got
After Ms. Crockett, Ms. Patton, I'm sorry to waste our time, but so clearly, before he gets started on cutting me out, say it one more time, a little slowly and a little clear. Can't nobody get back there because of the weather, right?
Because of the ground.
Right. So they should have. So this is an emergency, right? Right.
Yes.
But can't nobody get back there due to the weather, right?
Right.
So then what's the emergency? I mean, if you bleed and the doctor can't stop it, you got to wait till they can find something to fix it. So well, that may not be the best scenario, but whatever. But if can nobody get back there, can nobody get back there? So we should just bid it out.
Mr. Patterson, did he tell you what he told me, which is it to be later this week?
Why is he telling you?
After
Not
the-
Mr. Patterson,
I'm asking
that's
Mr.
the
Patterson
problem.
if he
If people
told.
talk to you,
Mr.
if they talk
Franklin,
to the water
Mr.
manager.
Franklin.
This the water manager,
Please.
and they see that could be your.
I'm asking Mr.
You got to sign a
Patterson
contract with.
to corroborate whether, I mean, might not have, but that's what he told me. Later the two vendors could be here later this week,
Well,
early next, if the weather's worse than expected.
it's supposed to rain the rest of the week.
That's what he told me. That's what both of them told me. But it's not like it's a month or anything. Ms. Crockett, and then Ms. Davis.
I heard
and then we probably should.
city attorney say that, has it been declared by the health department that this is a public nuisance or whatever, y'all? Have they sent the papers and all, because you said, I know you said it's been called, the health department been called, but I'm talking about, have they declared and said that this is a public nuisance, y'all need to get this fixed ASAP?
Through the rules of ADEQ, any sewage on top of ground is a violation of the state.
Okay, but is the sewage on, I'm going back, is the sewage on top of the ground in somebody's yard or is it in the
No, ma'am,
woods?
it's running in the ditch.
In the woods,
Yes, ma'am.
in the woods.
But you can smell it.
I smell sewage in my neighborhood all the time. Y'all don't come over there. I ain't trying to be funny. I'm just saying. And what I'm saying, you said you can smell it. It could be a dead dog. I'm not trying to be funny. Has anybody put their finger on this head? Hear the sewage running right through there. Have the ADQ, SRZ, has anybody made sure that there was sewage running through there?
Well,
Or is it just going by the smell?
no, ma'am. Sewage has a odor, plus it has a distinct color to it. I really don't like talking about it, but sewage is,
We don't have to explain. I'm just saying, has anybody, I think, Mr. Valley, you said something about it has to be declared by the health department or something?
No.
No, I didn't say that. I was just saying, what I said was, if it's sewage on the ground, that's a major issue.
That's
that needs to be
what,
cleared.
that's what I'm saying. You saying, have you seen the sewage on the ground?
no, ma'am.
Okay, then. So why are we saying that it's sewage on the ground? The mayor said that just because I call and report that I got sewage on top of my line, I might have went out and throw some sewage out there, but I'm just on top of the ground. It has to be investigated. My question is, has it been investigated?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And somebody done said that they seen sewage on top of the ground.
They saw the bus in the line.
No,
Right
I'm
there.
not talking the line, I'm talking
All the sewage is running out of the pipe
into where
into the ditch.
and where the ditch run into.
The ditch runs all the way the back of Oak Forest, all the way through the golf course, all the way to Springdale Road, Stringtown Road.
Okay, so somebody done seen open sewage running through the ditch.
No, man, don't nobody live back there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. then.
Under the, Ms. Crockett, before I answer your question, under the ADQ policy, what it says is that any sewage that's open, any sanitary sewer overflow, no matter how small, must be reported within 24 hours to ADQ, and it's a violation of Arkansas, of the Clean Water Act of the United States. Sanitary sewer overflows or releases of untreated sewage into the environment are illegal under the Clean Water Act. A sanitary sewer overflow causes raw sewage overflow out of manhole before it can reach the treatment facility. All SSOs are prohibited and must be reported no matter how small.
That's what my question is, has it been reported to whoever it needs to be reported to?
To the ADQ.
And what they find?
They just, they ask you, when you plan on fixing,
You
they,
know when that was reported to ADQ?
it was last year.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Last year.
Well, again, the investigation is the part of the process that does take time, and that required rural water to come down. It required people to walk out there and make sure, and it's going into a drainage ditch that affects our aquifer which is where our water comes from. It goes through down the soil. And also you have children in the neighborhoods, you have animals, you have a lot of things that can make it a public health hazard. So just because it's in the woods doesn't necessarily mean it's not still a very serious hazard. It is. And it did take some time to verify. And then it took time to verify that we couldn't fix it. And then it took time to verify who could fix it. And then it took time to get estimates. And that's what we're here today about. Mr. Valley, did you have something else? And then
Mr. Patterson, you say you did report to ADQ?
Yes, sir.
And has there been any agent from ADQ from the enforcement branch to come down and look at it?
No, sir.
Was it verbal or written?
Ma'am,
Was it verbal or written?
no, ma'am, I called.
You should have done it right,
No,
and they didn't see you nothing right.
no.
Yeah,
Next. You're okay. Mr. Overly.
what I'm hearing is, first of all, we need to be clear about the terminology that we use. It may constitute a violation, but apparently it's not an emergency to anyone, has never been an emergency to anyone. That includes this administration, ADEQ. Nobody has treated it as if it's an emergency. It is a violation clearly, but not an emergency. I think that what we're hearing is that it can't be fixed immediately. The weather forecast for the rest of the week is that it's going to rain. The facts and circumstances of everything we've heard just simply dictate that we should bid out this repair. Once we get it, we can take some action after that. And I think that's the next step that we should take. Just bid it out.
Is that a motion?
That's the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Everly that we bid out the project to fix the sewer main break in Oak Forest. There's a second by Mr. Franklin. Any questions or comments about the motion?
How is it going to be paid for?
I'm sorry.
How is it going to be paid?
It has to be paid for out of water and sewer funds. And one of the meetings we're having this week is what to do, how to prioritize spending and changes and cuts in the department so that we can pay for priorities like this. Obviously, public safety has to come first. And then there's also the CARES Act money that we still have that we can discuss.
And who having that meeting?
The water department and I are going to meet about, and probably Mr. Turner as well, if possible, to talk about the different options for trying to cut spending and figure out how to address the crisis.
Okay,
But this project, because of the public safety nature of it, will have to be paid for.
And of course, the reason I ask is because I heard someone say that we have the money to pay for it, or the money's there. But I know from the report of the office manager the other night, I mean, there are some issues there. So, I mean, that was not.
Get transferred to the water department to pay those bills, if that's what you should choose to do. That's available right now.
Okay.
Also, along with, I think, options of looking at, I think it's always a good idea anyway, of how to streamline expenses. It's still a good idea, even with that. So there are options, and it's a good question. And now we have a motion on the table.
okay, we in questions now.
No, that's fine. I just remind
Okay,
you.
since
I'm
you-
just reminding you, we have a motion. Ms. Carter.
Okay, I just want to say
Ms.
that
Davis is done.
since she brought that up about the $310,000 in the meeting on Tuesday, I asked you, could you get us proof that we had that money? Because remember, you had said that one time, because it's in the bank, don't mean that we actually have it. It might be already obligated to something. Have you made an effort to get that list to us about that?
I believe you asked for that for the next, regular council meeting. This is an emergency council meeting, but
I just asked,
I think
you
you
brought it
have,
up.
you have the treasurer and city clerk here to verify that's
I
approximately.
need it in black and white, just writing on paper, the white paper with some black writing on it. That's what I needed in it.
So you want documentation that we
Yes,
have
yes.
approximately
'Cause you-
310,000.
No, I need to know how
Rescue
much
Act.
we got, no approximations. Cause you already know what's been obligated somewhere else, cause we went through that with you too. Like you told me.
The 310, I'm letting you know, and we'll get it to you in black and white. It's my understanding, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. There's no pending obligation on the $310,000 that I'm aware of, but we'll get that to you in black and white. Any other questions about the motion
Yes,
on the table?
Yes.
Mr. Franklin?
With the water departments being in such a financial crunch, can we also, because I got these bills, can you, for the record, can you and the city treasurer and office manager and the water manager and Miss Sandy and them get me how much money you spent when you declared an emergency that you weren't supposed to declare, how much money you spent on that side by side and that four-wheeler and all those things you spent to put the water department in this financial bind? Can I please, for the record, get a copy of all the transactions you made when you called a so-called the water disaster, when you bought that side by side and that four-wheeler that sits in the police department and all the money that you spent? I need to know. Miss Sandy, can you look up the date that he declared an emergency and got all this stuff and spent this money without council approval? Mr. City Attorney, can you help me out with this? When we say you can't buy something and you ain't supposed to spend this money, what can we do? Because we got an excavator over there at the water plant that we said we wasn't gonna pay for, and it came in. So what legally can we do? Because every time the mayor goes over his spending limit, he goes over that and he does what he wanna do, and then the department suffer, and then they come back here to us, asking us, can we give them some relief? But if the CEO of the city could realize that he ain't supposed to spend money without this council approval, I'm speaking slow because I want him to get it, that you cannot keep spending money without council approval. That's why they got something called city council that's over finance and property. Ain't no right, city clerk, that's what the city council is to do, to help regulate. And we're not to get involved in day-to-day operations, but we control the finance and the property. Ain't that right, Mr. Ezra? That we control finance and property? I want to be corrected because I don't want folks to get out here and think I'm trying to steal the show. But I do want to see how can we hold people accountable when they are spending money that they're not authorized to spend. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have the floor, but I just want to put that out there to the public that Ms. Ramsey will get me by the next council meeting, will get me, Mr. Turner as well, will get me the necessary documents so this body can go over those documents. And I would like to have a special meeting just to go over the water department's finance. And we can meet twice a month starting in March to help the water department, because it was this body right here who got the city out of debt with meeting week after week. Ms. Crockett, Ms. Davis, Ms. Ford, Mr. St. Columbia, Mr. Anthony, and myself, the city attorney, city treasurer, city clerk, we met to get this city out of financial ruins. And I think with the council that we have here, if we can all agree to start holding the CEO of Helena-West Helena accountable, we can get some actions, because clearly the city council is in the dark until it's time to pay the piper. I give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions or comments about the motion on the floor? Not call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Crockett, St. Columbia,
Yeah.
6 yes.
Well, compared to bidding, no one asking this question doing about it. I just want to remind you of it. It has to be published in the paper at least once a week for at least 2 weeks. And then the opening date has to be at least 1 week after. So we're looking at a 3-week process from the time it's first put in the paper.
Yes, sir.
So 1 week in the paper once, the second week in the paper, and then the next week is the mayor has the exclusive right. Nobody else can award it. Once it comes down to it, it's the mayor's bailiwick. From there that he determines who to give the contract to as well as relates to it.
I second Ms. Crockett's motion.
What was the motion?
Ask her, Mr. Mayor.
You can, do the competitive bid, I mean, you can advertise for the competitive bid.
Mr. Ballard is saying we have to do that.
Yeah, Mr. That's why I made the motion. I'm just telling you what the process is for.
Oh, I didn't know.
We-
I thought that's what y'all was just voting on.
Oh, yeah, we thought, we withdraw that second.
I was just telling you the
Okay.
process so that we can get it started as soon as paper, because the earliest it'll be in the paper is next Wednesday for the
Yes.
local paper. Now you look at the Wednesday after that for the second time it ran, then you look at the Wednesday after that, that may be the first time be open paper to open them. The question is going to be, do y'all want to meet pretty quickly after that to appropriate the money? Because it may be more than 58,000. I don't know.
And I got this,
Any other, it's just Mr. Hart. Any other questions, for Mr. Valley, about his comments?
yeah,
If not, we need to be moving towards adjournment for a special lunch meeting. Mr. Sign Company moves adjournment.
but see how you acknowledge.
That's the
somebody else?
preferred motion. Is there a second on the?
We gonna give it to them,
Is there
but
a
that's how y'all wrote second. We'll get it to them.
second? Anyone opposed? All in favor? Meeting adjourned.